hilarious.
No, this is literally like the second time we started this podcast. Computer the Conqueror busted in and disconnected my Bluetooth headphones from the first part of the podcast, which is a perfect start to this podcast. We were bantering on and everything went insane. The dog went crazy. The headphones stopped working. Computer attacked us. And that makes sense because we're going to learn all about some computer tyrants. Remember the computer tyrants of Kolu, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, the last time we talked about Keith Giffen, remember L period, E period, G period, I period, O period, N period, 89?
89!
Yeah, it was fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that like a way back. Like, remember before all this stupid Captain America stuff happened? Back in episode 321 and 320, when we had a big critique of drugs, and then Keith Giffen got obnoxious and didn't want to go to New York City Comic Con and went and died on us. Yeah, well, he actually had his family post that in his social media.
So that people would be like, oh, he is not going to be here.
Well, no, like literally he just said I told them I'd do anything to get out of going to the stupid New York City Comic Con or something to that effect. Even die. That's what he had his family post after he died. Like making us laugh to the very end and beyond.
Definitely. I mean, if he did anything, it was definitely that.
And so, well, there you go. So we're doing one more Keith Giffen comic, and this one is by the dynamic, long-running Legion of Superheroes team of Keith Giffen and Paul Levitz. But this is not a Legion of Superheroes story. So I told Greg this weekend I could get him a bunch of Legion of Superheroes stories to read, which would make him like the Legion of Superheroes. And this one is not one of them that I would put in the pile.
After reading it, I understand why. I mean,
it might be one that you would just enjoy reading over and over again.
I enjoyed reading it. I needed it after my day. So.
Yes. I think the best part about this comic book right here is if your company that you work for or your own organization that you run and you think it's run inefficiently or badly, you just have to read this comic to know that it can be worse.
Yeah, this issue definitely makes you go, things can definitely be worse for even if you're a superhuman or have powers of some sort of power set where things are supposed to be great and they can always be worse. This book definitely nails it.
Well, it does nail it. And we've got some freaking amazing characters to bring to you that, and let me tell you, all these characters went on to great things. Well, maybe two. We'll go for two.
But they all did, Dan.
Two of these characters went on to great things. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of cannon fodder later, but, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But Keith Giffen did like to kill superheroes, so...
Yes.
I don't know that I'll go through the ending of every hero, because there are a few more appearances of a lot of these characters than there were for the Injustice League. Yeah, because most of them got killed off in a single issue. And then some of them got brought back, so, of course, you could go through their histories, but... Well, here we go. I mean, we have the Legion of Substitute Heroes special number 1, and we've got somebody holding a photograph, which is funny. They must be holding like a phone or something, right? This is the 30th century. I don't know.
It's an interesting way that they've taken a picture of this picture with a fingerprint going up. Yeah, it's an interesting.
Yeah, and look, they're standing in front of Fortress Lad. Remember Fortress Lad?
Yeah, Fortress Lad. I saw that and I was like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, that's the original Legion of Superheroes headquarters and the fins and everything.
Yeah.
And we've got Fire Lad, Infectious Lass, Porcupine Pete, Chlorophyll Kid, Stone Boy, Polar Boy, and Color Kid. And down it below, who you'll never actually see, that's Urk. That's all we really know about this guy. He just shows up and says Urk in the background. Like U-R-K.
U-R-K. Urk.
And he did that in a lot of Legion stories, like in the Legion Academy. So I don't really know what Urk does, honestly. Urk's always been a mystery to me. I let the other fanboys and fangirls
figure out what Urk does.
and non-aligned fan people figure out what Irk does.
There you go.
And it seems reasonable. And we've got a memorandum on the front of this book. So remember, there was a memorandum on our last episode from Maxwell Lord saying never mind to the Justice League Antarctica.
Right.
Here we have a real memorandum from Dick Giordano, famously of comics in the 60s, right? Like, and then he came over to DC, but he helped like edit like Blue Beetle and Captain Atom and all those characters. And then he came over to DC, and now he's sending a memo, and he says, April 1st, 1985, Legion of Substitute Heroes Special Memorandum. You really expect us to get people to pay for this? I mean, you have to appreciate the honesty up front.
Yeah.
And this is coming off an appearance by the Legion of Substitute Heroes in an issue of DC Comics Presents. DC Comics Presents number 59. And Superman was trying to fly to the 40th century for some reason, not the 30th century. And Ambush Bug hopped on Superman's back to go for a ride so he could explore the time stream. And Superman had a mission to complete, so he tried to drop Ambush Bug off to be held by the Legion of Superheroes. But they were out on a mission. So he had to drop them off with the Legion of Substitute Heroes. And Ambush Bug stole Superman's cape and tried to do all sorts of things. And it didn't really go well for these guys. So after the popularity of that appearance, they got their own special. So it's just true what they said in the Justice League Antarctica annual, right? Like, they're like, oh, if it's as popular, we'll give you the special and the series and all sorts of things.
All the stuff.
And it's ironic because in the Legion of Substitute Heroes' first appearance in Adventure Comics 306, they also had to save the world while the Legion of Superheroes were out on a mission. Maybe the Legion of Superheroes shouldn't go out on missions as often.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't, like, everybody take off. They should leave a couple behind.
Yeah. Well, we should probably dig into this book.
Yeah.
Are you excited, though? Look who the cover inker is. You see that signature down at the bottom there? Giffen / Karl Kesel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, you know that guy.
Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah. So early DC work there for Mr. Kesel. Yeah, who's now doing a Kickstarter book on a regular basis called Impossible Jones, which is a lot of fun if you haven't read it. I don't know if you've read it. It's right up your alley. I have them, but I don't.
I think I have a book.
There you go. Well, now we get into something we were talking about in the front cover. Thanks to Amazing Heroes, best books of 1984, and I was making you guess these. Yeah,
you made me guess them in the last episode.
Not the last episode.
The episode
before that.
The episode before this, yes.
The episode that exists now, but doesn't exist now in time because we would have to go back in time. But as we record it, it exists. But you don't know that we know that you know that it exists.
It exists.
And we get into the Legion of Substitute Heroes. And so we get a Protean. So I don't know. I think it must have been Edmund Hamilton, but I'd have to go back. This is one piece of research I don't have looked up for the podcast. But there was Prody 1 and Prody 2. Those were Proteans. They were Chameleon Boy's pets. You see, they were members of the Legion of Pets. But then later on, the Proteans were a sentient race that could transform into things, and they got really mad and like sued the United Planets for sentience because it seems pretty reasonable. Yeah. And Prody too later went on to be a photographer in the 30th century, which, knowing how photography is really taking off right now as a profession in our current technological state, I can imagine in the 31st century it was just a booming profession.
Oh, yeah, no, they got all those places where you can go drop off your film and come back in an hour after you drive through the parking lot and go to the pharmacy and the flower store and the card shop and wait a minute, there's not a place that you can drop off the film, and most pharmacies, card shops, and florists are not existent either. In most, I guess in my area, they've all closed. But.
Yeah, so probably maybe not so good. But the first page, we get the Proteans singing about how the Legion of Substitute Heroes came to be. And we get in one page a summary of a whole bunch of Adventure Comics 306. See, I'm a better editor than the editors right here because I can tell you where this happened.
That's awesome.
And in Adventure Comics 306, we get the debut of Polar Boy, Night Girl, Fire Lad, Chlorophyll Kid, and Stone Boy. Do you know how Polar Boy got his superpowers?
No, how? Tell me more.
He lives on the planet Thar, and it's a super hot planet, so the natives of that planet developed the ability to have super cold.
Oh.
But when he tried out for the Legion of Superheroes, see, another podcast calls these moments of super dickery.
Okay.
But the Legion of Substitutes, they're like a club, the superheroes, and Polar Boy tried out, and he was rejected because everybody got cold.
I see.
And so esteemed established heroes such as Bouncing Boy rejected Polar Boy because his powers weren't worthy enough. Yeah.
It's too chill.
Yeah. It's very bad.
That's not too chill. That's not chill at all.
Yeah. We have Night Girl, who's from the planet Kassoon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. She's called Night Girl because her dad made a super serum for her to have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
But on her homeworld, it's night all the time.
Okay.
So when she came to Earth, she found out she didn't have super strength in the sunlight.
Oh, no. Only at nighttime.
Yeah. One Fire Lad, he got into a vat of he breathed in some noxious chemicals and then could spit fire.
Ooh.
But it's really bad if you can spit fire and you can't control it.
That's not good. It's too hot.
And then I almost called him Plant Lad.
Plant Lad.
That was a different character the Legion of Superheroes met in the Super Stalag of Space. But we're not going to get into that adventure today.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't have time. We probably don't have time for all of this right now. But Super Stalag of Space, that's a whole. Anyway, so Chlorophyll Kid, he fell into a vat of chemicals, and he can accelerate the growth of plants.
Oh, okay.
That seems like a cool power. I feel like that one might have been able to make it,
Yeah, I mean, think about feeding the hungry people that are out there, or regenerating rainforest and other stuff like that. That's a good thing, man. That is a superpower that we need.
And then there's Stone Boy, and Stone Boy.
He's always stoned?
No.
Oh.
It's not Stoned Boy, it's Stone Boy.
Oh, okay.
But he lives on a planet where they lose the sun for whole bunches of the year, so they go into hibernation.
Yeah.
They can turn into stone. His power's awesome because he can just turn into stone.
Statue Man.
Right, kind of, yeah.
Statue Man. Okay, cool. Statue Boy.
No, Stone Boy.
Statue Boy.
Well, in Adventure Comics 311, the war between the substitute heroes and the superheroes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was actually offered membership because he won a contest.
Oh.
But he turned it down.
Was it a staring contest?
Friends. No.
Oh.
No. But that would definitely be one he could win.
He'd be really good at holding paper down.
Yeah. Well, we get to learning about the Legion of Substitute Heroes, and we're doing some study on the Legion of Substitute Heroes, and we've got a familiar-looking senator from the planet of Bismol.
Uh-huh. Yes, the planet of Bismol.
And he's instructing the other senators who are laughing at him about the history of the Legion of Substitute Heroes. And he's even introducing the fact that they have some new members, like Porcupine Pete, who first appeared in Superboy and Legion of Superheroes number 201.
Okay.
And his powers are the porcupine guy.
It's a good name.
Yeah, but when he tried out, he didn't have any control over where he shot his quills.
So he
kind of like a porcupine.
Just
yeah. And then there's Infectious Lass. And in one of the most at least sort of pseudo-offensive origins ever, she comes from a colony planet where they have different diseases, but when she comes back to the main part, she could infect people with those diseases. It's like reverse America. I never thought about it till today, actually, and was like, ooh, I don't like that origin anymore. But anyway, people on her homeworld hold certain diseases, so she comes back and she can infect people. But when she first came back, it was a little dangerous because she didn't have really super good control over her powers. And when she tried out in Superboy and Legion of Superheroes number 201, she made Starboy very sick.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it wasn't so good. But it looks like that we're having some issues because our friendly senator, Pencil Kem, also used to be a member of the Legion. He was actually a member of the Legion of Superheroes.
Uh-huh.
And he comes from the planet Bismol, where anyone can eat any form of matter.
Oh.
Because they had like poisonous plants and stuff.
So he can eat anything.
Yes. But the writers at some point in the 80s were like, we really don't want to write stories for Matter Eater Lad. So they had him drafted to the Senate.
Oh, okay.
On his homeworld, and he left the Legion. But then he came back and he ate this thing called the Miracle Machine and went insane.
Oh. Well, it didn't
But
cause
then he got
miracle.
uninsane, and now he's back in the Senate.
Oh. Well, see, anything can happen.
Right. He's a success story, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the Bismolians have decided to turn over their economy to a computer system. We'll call it Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they've tried to make it's almost like this story is telling the future, by the way.
Right.
But it's in the future.
Yeah.
So is it telling the past?
It could be. It's telling.
Like, if it's talking about now, and Tenzil Kem is a little bit worried about doing this, but despite his protests, the bill was ingested into law.
Uh-huh. They ate the bill?
Because, yeah, well, honestly, as incompetent as these guys are, at least they can have a speaker.
I see.
Yeah. So they can actually pass legislation.
As opposed to...
Hopefully by the time this podcast releases, we'll be able to also pass legislation in the United States.
We'll have one.
Yeah, it might, but who knows?
It'll be amazing. It'll be a miracle. He'll have the miracle. Well, maybe a miracle machine will be eaten.
If you look in the background on page 3, there's a lot of Easter eggs here. So down to that bottom quarter panel, did those things in the background look familiar to you? Look like anything?
A little bit. Kind of like a big computer.
Yeah. Well, let's flip the page. Look at page 4. You know who this is on page 4?
No.
Well, that is
Wally.
The version of Computo the Conqueror.
Oh.
Remember, he was the guy that destroyed our podcast.
Yeah.
And
that dude.
And Matter Eater Lad is like, I don't know, but when I was serving in the Legion of Superheroes as Matter Eater Lad, I had learned to trust my hunches, and deep down, I think we're on the verge of disaster.
Maybe he's right.
The story brought to you by Paul Levitz and Keith Giffen, Karl Kesel, John Costanza lettering, Karl Gafford colorist, and Karen Berger is the editor. And she says, warning, if you take the Legion of Substitute Heroes seriously or have never heard of April Fool's Day, you're probably better off not reading this comic book. So I probably should just stop reading now.
There we go. That was the podcast, kids. Have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Got the noisemaker. I'm good.
All right.
It also took me 25 minutes to find myself to get to the center of the Oreo chocolate chip cookie.
Oh, did it? Well, I mean, it's a big puzzle. That's a good puzzle then. That means it kept you busy for a while. And it goes to show in 1985, we were still trying to figure out which way do you eat these things.
Yeah.
It's been a mystery. It's been a mystery forever.
Well, we turn the page and we have a house ad for a Red Tornado miniseries, and he doesn't look like he's doing so well.
No, not at all. Like in pieces.
And it says Red Tornado finally gets himself together.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
So the jokes are everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Well, now we get a turn and we get some Giffen art at its best here. A whole bunch of Kirby crackle, stars in the sky. And it says, in a far distant corner of the universe, the solar winds churn a giant star's fiery energy. And then a bunch more things. And it says, until it comes to life once again. Seems ominous.
It's very dark.
Well, now we get back to Earth. And the Legion of Substitute Heroes are considering taking on a mission to Bismol. So they're learning all about it.
Yeah, got to learn about it if you're going to go there. It's like whenever you go on a trip, you want to know how do the bathrooms work? What's the food like? How are the laws? All that stuff.
Well, they do cover a few of those things. I had mentioned that Bismol's planet was polluted in deadly microbes over generations, so everything's poisonous. And we've got Chlorophyll Kid, who since his original appearance is in the Silver Age, looks like he's been enjoying the fruit that he can grow.
Oh, yeah. He's been
very much so.
You are what you eat, right?
Yeah, so he's grown up a little bit, and and they also share with us that he looks a little stressed because they say to avoid total consumption of their planet's resources, weight control has been legislated, and their science police weigh people as they walk by. And can you imagine if we did that now? That would not everybody. Yeah. This book might get canceled.
Probably
because there's a scene, but it sort of does make sense though.
A lot of little things in this book that might do that, but we'll get.
But
there.
we we try to regulate the use of oil, right?
Yeah.
So we don't destroy the planet. So I mean, I guess you wouldn't want your planet to be eaten if that was the power.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
This is probably one of the least offensive things in the book if you put it in the context of the writing.
Yeah.
So they also have people there to prevent the occasional people trying to eat the local fruit. And we're getting a phone call.
I know, we're getting a phone call.
You should answer that. Our podcast is run just as well as the Legion of Substitute Heroes. So I'll definitely not be editing that out. Oh, you're taking the phone call in the middle of the podcast. And one of the most professional starts to the podcast ever, Greg, has now left. Well, good news, as Greg just leaves to take a phone call, kind of like leaving me on my own, like the story just wanders. We do have a picture of Urk, and Urk is looking for the fruit that Chlorophyll Kid drops. And as everybody's trying to get onto the mission, it looks like folks are going to become. It looks like we have a lineup of everybody that's been mentioned before, and they're looking for Color Kid. And then they see Color Kid, and Color Kid, was male and was infected by something and became female. So it's Keith Giffen's probably better attempt at transgender than later on, but that we mentioned in a different episode. But hey, it's at least they're not too bad making fun of things, actually trying things. So interesting. So hey, Greg, you just missed the introduction of our transgender character. And I said maybe a little bit better than last time we talked about Keith Giffen introducing a transgender character.
Oh yeah.
Some people might disagree, but I'm always like, the one thing I'll say is at least he tried to introduce some of these concepts in the books.
Yeah. And for 1985, this is a really good, that's a pretty, when you put it into context of time and stuff like that, it's a huge leap forward in time for this type of thing. So,
huge leap forward in time.
Well, I mean, although this is in time, so it's timeless, but you know what I mean? For perspective wise, I mean, kids today don't get that concept. Why were things so difficult back in the 80s? It's like, wow.
Yeah. Well,
yes. But yeah, no, I mean, I will say, reading this, I was like, oh, there you go. It's, hey, I woke up and this is who I am today.
Yep.
Yep, and it's a great.
And basically, Color Kid is like, what are you staring at? Like, so even the reactions are sort of realistic to what would happen to somebody in real life sometimes too. So it's like, okay, I'm this today, and the friends are more concerned about it than they are, which is also something that transgendered people face. So fortunately, we've gotten to a point in society where that happens a lot less, but it's here. And so I do want to mention it because it is here, and some people might see it differently than me. So if you do, write us and let us know. But
let us know.
I thought at least they're sort of trying. Yeah. By the way, did you know that we are posting our podcast on YouTube?
Oh, no. With video? Yeah. Not with video.
Not with video. No. Like, because mostly because you can't afford more than a camera from 1993.
Hey, now. I can.
But
not affordable.
What we find out is that these are there. So if you do want to engage us, you could leave comments on those videos. Of course, you could also leave us a review on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else too.
There you go.
I'm really anxious to see all those 1-star reviews. So it's
give us
fantastic.
Those 1 stars. I mean, if we get 1-star reviews, I would love to read them. I would love to read them on the podcast and just be like, oh, okay, cool, another 1-star review.
See, and that's your way of thinking. And I was about to say, if you leave us a 5-star review, we'll read your review on the podcast.
I would read them all. because I don't think we've gotten any reviews.
Greg, you are the Amazon of podcasting. You put it all out there, right? I'm gonna leave all the reviews up for everybody. And I was just thinking, man, if one of our awesome listeners who tells us how much they like the podcast left us a 5-star review, we'd read their message. And you're like, we'll just read everybody. So you know what?
No.
I feel like you're trying to now get our podcast rated like at a average of like a 2.1. So
No.
It's good for marketing to have our podcast out there at a 2.1.
I think that, I mean, 2.1 is better than a 1 or a none.
I'm not sure about that. I think it's actually worse than a none. Well, anyway.
A 2.1 is worse than a none?
Anyway, we got a new character in the book.
Okay, who's the new character? Tell me.
Gigi Cusimano. She is a storied science police officer, but she got crossways with her chief, and she has to be the temporary liaison to the Legion of Substitute Heroes.
I see.
See, it's somewhat prestigious to be the liaison to the Legion of Superheroes because they're deputized science police officers, by the way. You didn't know. But to go to the Substitute Heroes, not as much. And she's just very hopeful they don't get called away on a mission. And we already know they're. And then, what's more importantly, maybe if she'd bought some real shark's teeth, taken some self-defense classes, or developed an Atlas body, she'd be ready for this assignment.
Or got a space robot kit.
It's entirely true.
I mean, what? Or became a ninja.
Here's something. 3 mil comic bags, $5.25 per 100 bags. Like, you can get them for like $8 or $9 now, can't you?
I mean, depends.
It seemed like a very good deal.
Well, it depends on how fast they're getting to you, because I know for a while you couldn't get bags for like months. Like between 2020 and 2022, like you couldn't get bags and boards for like literally 6 or 7 months. So
actually, my last order I made for 1,000 took me like 8 or 9 weeks. So
you lucked out then, because I know for a while we were struggling. That's why we just weren't like, ugh.
Well, anyway, back to the story as I got us distracted. Well, we were in the story. We're
looking at the ads.
Well, we're back to the planet Bismol, and we have new folks to meet.
Pepto.
Yeah, we meet Eiffel Ethel and Tusker.
Tusker.
And
Tusker
see, Eiffel Ethel.
Tusker
you want to guess what Eiffel Ethel's powers are?
She can see a lot.
Yeah, she has a whole bunch of eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, she was rejected by the Legion of Superheroes in Adventure Comics 330. You're starting to notice a theme. There's a lot of rejecting going on.
Yes, they're all rejects.
And there's Tusker, and Tusker, he has the power to have tusks.
So he's a Kevin Smith movie. Okay, got it.
And he was rejected by the Legion of Superheroes in Adventure Comics 331. And so they're trying to make their reputations.
They reject a guy with a cool haircut like that, though?
Well, you see, there is something interesting out of these characters. Later on, Jeff Johns did a story. It maybe sounds like it was written for Trump times, but it was written about 10 years before.
Okay.
Where the Legion of Superheroes were banned from Earth, and they were only letting heroes with powers originating, or heroes that were born on Earth, right? Be like the new Justice League, basically, in the future. Justice League Earth. So Tusker and Eiffel Ethel, they kind of souped up their powers a little bit, and they became part of that.
Interesting. So only Earth-born supers, no alien superheroes.
Yeah, and most of them had been rejected by the Legion of Superheroes previously.
Was there a waiting period? Could they get some kind of card or something like that saying that they were okay if they were born in space and then came? Wow.
No, it was a bad time.
Bad time for superheroes.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. Tusker do.
They were led by a guy named Earthman, but his original name was Absorbency Boy.
Okay.
He had the power to absorb the energy residue of any superpower. But he was rejected originally because his powers are too limiting, because he had to have somebody who had superpowers around him for his powers to work. So they were like, if there are superpowered people around, you might be useful, but a thug could just beat you up.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So they rejected him too. But anyway, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This guy that looks really familiar on the next page. So Yeah, like it looks like, so Tusker's trying to break in, Ethel, they're trying to sabotage the computer economy.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Tusker is the Sam Bankman-Fried of the 30th century.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then suddenly they get zapped, and right in the middle of all the computers appears Pulsar Stargrave.
Boy.
You've never heard of Pulsar Stargrave, right?
I have not. He's got a cool
Does
name,
he look
though.
like somebody you remember
Um,
from our
vaguely.
Legion days?
Oh, he does. He does.
Yes, he would later be sort of retconned to be. So they imply later on that this guy was the computer tyrants of Cthulhu.
Okay. Yeah.
He was also a villain in a few stories, and
Yeah.
his story got sort of like really messed up,
Yeah.
and eventually so messed up that the author wouldn't even put his name on the end of the story.
What? Oh, wow. Now I need to read it.
Yeah, I'll swing you those later.
Okay.
It was some Jim Starlin shenanigans of all things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he signed his name as Steve Apollo later.
Well,
He
okay.
didn't want to put his name on the story
That's
on the end. But this sort of got mixed in with some other things. But Pulsar Stargrave, they thought it was going to be basically, they were originally trying to say he was Brainiac 5's dad.
Okay.
And it got really messed up. Well, you know where a good place for messed up characters is?
Where?
This story.
This story. Yes. This story.
Yes, because Keith Giffen is grabbing every messed up character and just throwing them at random into the story, which is fantastic.
Pulsar lives to rule.
So what are you thinking so far, right? We've got
I love
all
the
these
build-up.
great.
Yeah.
We've got. You love the build-up.
It's a lot of exposition.
Yeah, yes, there's a lot of exposition. We're in page. Let's see, how far are we into the podcast right now?
We are like
35 minutes.
35 minutes into the podcast,
And we've made it to page 12.
And I'm not gonna lie, I want it to end, but
Well, I think that some other characters are going to want this to end soon too. I can't believe you want this to end though. You've learned all about the Legion of Substitute Heroes, lots of origins.
No, I think it's great. Let's go. Let's keep moving. Let's move on.
Oh, you want us to move on? Okay, well, there's a blackout on Planet Bismol, and
Oh man.
Tenzel Kim, aka Matter Eater Lad, is terribly afraid.
Oh, I would be scared too.
But he should know he's recruited some of the greatest heroes in the galaxy, right? Like the Legion of Superheroes weren't available because he couldn't get them because, he can't just get them on a hunch, right? And so now something really bad has happened, and the Legion of Substitute Heroes are flying in to fight one of the deadliest villains of all time that the Legion of Superheroes have ever faced, Pulsar Stargrave. And now we get an introduction to the Planetary Chance Machine. And originally, the Planetary Chance Machine was once used in an issue in Adventure Comics to choose the Legion of Superheroes leader.
Aha.
And it throws a ball at somebody, hits them, and they become the leader. It's a good way to choose something.
Yeah.
I think you should
It's
have
like
a Planetary
roulette.
Chance Machine at the store.
No. We have a machine that you can put a quarter in, and a bouncy ball will spin down a giant vortex and wind down to the bottom, and there's no thing at the bottom to stop it. So if you don't have your hands there right at the exact moment that it spits out, you have to chase that rubber bouncy ball all through the store. And that is a chance machine that I think you should take a chance on.
Well, the good news is, as the story starts, we already lose one of the Legion of Substitute Heroes before they even start fighting the villain. Because the Planetary Chance Machine knocks out Porcupine Pete after it hits him, chooses him.
You've been chosen to die. I mean, he's not dead. He's just asleep.
And then we get Polar Boy just losing his shit. He's like, you've changed into a man overnight. We have a really important mission. We even have a liaison officer. You don't even know what happened to yourself. And Color Kid is sorry. So this is the part that might be problematic to some folks, and I can see why. And then now he's like, we're under attack. And he's like, nobody's showing on any screens. And they find out, and he goes, we're out of what? And we go back to the planet Bismol. And basically now they're talking to the Science Police building gets completely blown up. This is like an Legion story.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the same author wrote it. And so Yeah.
Kaboom! It's gone.
And now we have Pulsar Stargrave is talking to, doesn't look like the president, but anyway, looks like somebody. And he's like, I want control of your planet, command your people, and or obey the consequences. And now Tenzel is dressed up in his old school green and yellow Matter Eater lad outfit.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't read the old comics, you would have no idea why he's running around in his green and yellow outfit.
No.
But he's like, oh no, it's Pulsar Stargrave, and I've summoned the subs. This doesn't look good. He seems very scared. And then, they're basically like going to give him the planet. So, and then he finds out he's on Bismol. Stargrave is. He's not really happy. So now we get home of the resident science police commander, and they're like, oh, maybe that Tenzel Gem guy was right about these computers.
Wah.
Oh no. Well, now he's we see Eiffel, Ethel, and Tusker again, and they're doing menial tasks for Pulsar Stargrave, right as they should. So
yeah,
fantastic. And we flip the page, and we get the best fight scene in the history of comics.
It is pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
There's biting, there's punching.
Yeah, and we do get it, by the way. He does. So I said it was retconned, but maybe not, right? It says summons to Bismol was necessary. You are not Pulsar Stargrave, great hero of the computer wars of Colu reborn. So they didn't say he was the computer tyrants of Colu, but they do allude to it. So I think it's easy enough to see. And Pulsar Stargrave is distracted because he's talking to the giant computos. And Tenzel Gem jumps up and bites him in the nose.
Arr.
And spits it out.
It's his only chance.
And Pulsar Stargrave, the big bad baddie he is like, enough! This is the final indignity. This planet is doomed. Does he not sound like big-time Marvel cosmic villains to me?
Oh, yeah, totally. That's a cool page. I like it.
Oh, my God. The art on this page is awesome. First of all, you got Kirby Crackle everywhere.
Yeah.
It's red. He looks all menacing, except his nose is bitten off.
His nose is bitten off. The negative space use on like the face and hands and stuff like that. It's just like, it just looks cool. It just looks so cool.
Yeah, the art here is really cool. I think Keith Giffen would kind of go off crazy, like with the Trencher style later and some of the things. And I think this is still a phase where I think that a lot of the art is really neat. And Kesel's inks here are really working for me too.
Definitely.
I mean, it's the two together, right? I think it worked well. Well, we get to the next page, and Matter Eater Lad, surprisingly, by biting a giant computer body's nose, doesn't stop him, and he gets zapped by a giant ball of energy, and he's like, yeah. And now we're back to the shuttle. Or now we're back to the shuttle satellite stop above Bismol. And he's like, that's the story, team. We can't land to help Matter Eater Lad because the entire planet of Bismol is blacked out, and we're not considered valuable enough to help to have emergency status. And the title of part 2 of this book is Here a Hero? Question mark. And we get a big discussion between the team, and Porcupine Pete has woken back up, so that's good.
He's awake.
Yeah.
He's not dead.
And we find out Infectious Lass is infected Color Kid.
Oh.
And it changed their
gender. Yeah, it changed their gender.
Overnight. Yeah. So now he's all annoyed because and it seems like he's all annoyed, but he's the leader of the team, so he let the person who can't control their powers onto the team. And she's still not controlling her powers very well at all. So there we go. And then we get below.
For a person that's supposed to be able to use the power of cold, they're not chill at all.
No, he's quite a hothead, actually, and no joke. I do have an amazing print, though, by Scott Koblish with Sunboy and Polar Boy on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Not print, actually. He drew it for me and colored it, which...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's that. But, yeah, and the poor Polar Boy, I was going to sort of wait till the end, but I think this is as good a time as any. I think that Giffen used him this way because Levitz wanted Polar Boy to join the Legion of Superheroes very soon after this, and they did. He did end up finally getting to become a member. Mm-hmm. So I also think this is a little bit why this is like his last hurrah with the substitute heroes. So I think Giffen used him this way and played with it because he could, right? This is the last time he can make him sort of a joke character, and then
Gotcha.
he becomes a member of the team. So, okay, that's good for Polar Boy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of does make sense, though. His powers seem to merit being on the team. Like, it's not like, but I don't know.
He just has to control his emotions.
Well, there is that, and he may have been bad at that when he was later on the Legion of Superheroes team as well.
Oh, problematic.
But so they do hold a little bit of this. Well, anyway, we have Pulsar Stargrave throwing a whole-scale cosmic villain temper tantrum on the next page.
Yeah.
A lot of infernal mortals and how dares and you offend me.
Oh, he's wrecking shop.
Tons of Kirby Crackle everywhere.
It even says crackle.
It even says crackle and crunch and thump.
Yeah, I love it.
And Matter Lad's like, I'm in deep trouble. Where are the blazes or the subs? And above Bismol, there must be something we can do to get off the station. And then we get our second memorandum of the book. So always good when you see a lot of memorandums. And it says, to Keith Giffen from Paul Levitz. So Keith Giffen is the plotter and artist, and Paul Levitz is the writer. December 18th, 1984, Subspecial Part 2, and a copy to Karen Berger, the other editor. And Paul says, enough's enough, Keith. I know we agreed that you would break down the story from rough plot outline and work out most of the details after all. You're the one with the sense of humor, but there's no way I can dialogue a story that isn't going anywhere. Get them, the blazes, down to the planet Bismol already, so we can get on with this issue. And while you're at it, could you leave me some space so I can give some background info on the crew? Well, good news. We found some pages that we can go through pretty quickly because I did already give you a lot of the background on the crew.
Yeah.
So this is a page dedicated to Fire Lad.
Yeah.
But I think the best part is all of a sudden, per Paul's request, they just appear on the planet in random places and we have no idea how they got there.
They're just there. Boom.
They're just there. So, and we find out a little bit about Fire Lad, how he got his powers. And then he's allergic to something there. He sneezes, and he starts a giant fire.
Oh, no.
He's like, oh, no, I did it again. So I guess we know why he didn't make it in Legion of Superheroes. We then see Stone Boy, who shares the power of all natives of his world to change his body to stone. Remember I mentioned that? And,
yes.
And he's just head down into the ground next to a building.
Where he will sit for the rest of the story.
And then nearby, Stone Boy, we have a fight going on between I don't know.
Yeah.
Matter Eater Lad running away.
Yeah.
Is that would you call it a fight?
Matter Eater Lad is like, I'll get out here. And he's like, ah.
And now he's playing a shell game, and it looks like he's about to get blasted on page 26. By the way, I love this comic because it has page numbers.
Oh, page numbers. It's a neat thing that you bring that up. What you don't get in some of the books that I work on, like Starlight, page numbers, you do get them in the other books that I do work on, like Supernatural Baby Killer, which you've probably got in your inbox today.
Supernatural Baby Killer.
Oh, Baby Detective. Oh my gosh, they did it again.
That would be a very different book.
That would be it's such a good title too. So anybody
I think that's Pulsar Stargrave.
He's a supernatural baby killer.
Supernatural baby killer, yeah.
Yeah, he's out there trying to kill those babies. No, Supernatural Baby Detective has page numbers. It's amazing, right? So.
Yeah, well, he says to Matter Eater Lad, feel what no mortal has human, the unfettered fire of the heart of a star. Clearly, Paul Levitz couldn't write that section either, even though he should have sped it up. And then he gets hit by a potted plant.
Boom.
And this guy's like, can I get a good night's sleep? Can that racket? And then we get a page that's censored. He says, the remainder of the scene was censored due to poor taste, Karen Berger. So we don't get to see whatever Pulsar Stargrave does to murder that poor person. Well, and then we see Color Kid. And Color Kid, because we haven't told you yet, appeared the first time and was rejected by the Legion of Superheroes in Adventure Comics 342. They noted when they rejected him that his superpower of making everything dayglow wasn't useful.
But in the 90s, dayglow is awesome.
Well, he lights up this entire area he's in because it's dark, and then he sees a giant cannon pointing at him. Sorry.
Yeah.
I went back to the original Color Kid appearance. I apologize.
No worries.
And so they're looking, and they've stumbled into a death trap, they think, which is the Bismol Department of Sanitation Incinerator System. So maybe by the end of the issue, we'll find out if Color Kid can get out of an incinerator.
I hope so.
And then we get the next page. We find out about Chlorophyll Kid, who I mentioned fell into a tank of hydroponic fluid, and he can make things grow. But he randomly lands on one of those scales that they use to keep the planet safe.
Yes.
And this is the part where I think you thought the book would get canceled today, not the other one part.
Because they pick him up and take him away.
The calorie police.
Yeah, it's a little shaming.
Yeah. And then we get Gigi Cusimano, the probably one competent member of the team.
Yeah.
Maybe besides Polar Boy. And she's in the water, and she thinks she's going to get out of things, and then a giant fish monster is about to eat her.
Oh, no. Terrible.
And it says Gigi Cusimano was considered a rising star in the Earth detachment of the Science Police, but got into a personal dispute with Sunboy of the Legion, and as penance, she's been assigned to this job. So, yeah. By the way, it does work out for her in the end. She does become the chief of police eventually, so.
Well, that's good to know.
That's good to know. It does work out. She's not going to die from the giant fish.
Ah, ooh, good. It's a big fish.
And then we see Porcupine Pete, who has appeared in some mud and muck.
Mm-hmm.
And this says, I thought he was a mutant, but this says his projectiles from his body were cursed by a native of the fifth dimension planet of Zrift. So isn't that where like Mxyzptlk comes from?
I believe so. He kind of has a Mxyzptlk face.
Yeah, so I thought he was just a mutant, but I was wrong, or it's been retconned a million times, which is also entirely possible.
Totally.
I mean, as you might imagine, Porcupine Pete is going to become a central figure in all Legion of Superhero storytelling.
Honestly, I wouldn't doubt if there's a movie coming out or just even a standalone TV show. Porcupine Pete.
What if Porcupine Pete teamed up with Squirrel Girl?
That'd be pretty cool. Actually, okay. You know who, casting-wise, who we have play Porcupine Pete?
Who?
Everybody's favorite current Pete. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Pete Davidson.
Oh, God. Yeah, I like it when he got murdered in the opening scene of Suicide Squad. Like, just destroyed. Straight up, like, killed, dead. Everybody, you said everybody's favorite Pete. I was trying to think of who everybody's favorite Pete would be, and then you said Pete Davidson, who is everybody's least favorite Pete.
I know, there's so much sarcasm.
Sarcasm comes across very well on a radio show.
I know it does, doesn't it? I needed the sound effects. Everybody's favorite Pete.
God.
You know,
I don't think that was the right sound effect, but you shouldn't try anymore. Anyway, okay, Pulsar Stargrave hits poor Porcupine Pete in the head again. We're talking a lot of concussions, and he's like,
oh man,
I've got to use my quills. Take that, and then the quills like shoot out of a hole. And then we see Polar Boy in the background, and he was going to. He's like, I'm too late to help. And he's feeling sorry for himself. He's like, however, we got down here. This is finally our chance to prove ourselves. He's so excited. And my team, such as they are, scattered. The stars know. And then we find out why. Now we find out why Matter Eater Lad was once a member of the Legion of Superheroes. Because he has tunneled his way. He didn't get squished by that, or he didn't get shot by that flame. He had been chewing his way through the earth like a mole. I don't know why he's spitting out, or he must just not be hungry anymore, right?
I mean, you can eat so much, and then sometimes the meal's just not what you want anymore.
Oh, they told us. That's why. They said everything's poisonous here. So he had to, because not the resources. So, it's organic. Oh, so he's been spitting it out the whole time.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So that's, oof. And they're like, why did you cause us? You know, he's like, did Stargrave cause this? He's asking him all these questions, and he's like, I'm scared. And now he's like, Polar Boy, with your powers, we might have a chance. So.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
And then we get above Bismol, and there's poor Drora, the infectious lass. She's all alone, like she was on quarantine again, and so she's like finding them. And we find out, we get a picture of the planet Bismol, and we find out where people are. Fire Lad is at the site of what will be called the 50-mile Inferno. Color Kid, then they try to, and they just say never mind, which I think is the right call here.
Yeah.
Carrying on that joke would have been stupid. So they don't know where Color Kid is. Stone Boy is tentative subject. They think they know where Stone Boy is.
Yeah.
Officer Cusimano is in a giant ocean practicing survival training.
Yeah.
Because Polar Boy is still trying. Porcupine Pete is 12 feet underground and climbing, and Chlorophyll Kid is under detention
by the Calorie Police.
And we get, holy crap, an advertisement for Crisis number 4.
Oh, hey.
Featuring, and this is how different the DC universe was. It was in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Ready for who this is featuring?
It's
Sergeant Rock,
yeah.
Jonah Hex,
yeah,
Batman and the Outsiders,
wow,
Legion of Superheroes, the Teen Titans, Commandy,
what?
Arion, Firebrand.
Firebrand
you probably haven't heard of, I'm guessing, but Firebrand was part of All-Star Squadron.
I've heard of the name, but yeah.
The Losers, who were part of the War Books.
Yeah.
Green Lantern,
mm-hmm.
but not the Green Lantern you're thinking.
Different Green Lantern.
Yeah, not Hal. So Obsidian, who's part of Infinity Inc., Superman, Batlash, Flash, and Firestorm. The one thing I'll say, I think Crisis was a messed up book in a lot of ways, hard to follow. But boy, did you get like every freaking hero they owned in these books.
Everybody. And what's crazy too is like, I mean, just the amount of like, you would not think there'd be that much crossover like of these types of characters, because you don't get a lot of these characters in anything new now. Like, your Sergeant Rock, Jonah Hexes, the Losers, that kind of stuff.
Well, Losers died in Crisis, but I think they brought them back, right? You did get John Stewart. I think, who's the characters we still get? Obviously Superman and Flash.
Mm-hmm.
John Stewart.
Yeah.
Legion's not being published right now. Commandy. I love Commandy, but yeah. And then down at the bottom, you've got, it's so interesting too, because you think of end of an era, right? You get an advertisement for Sergeant Rock and GI Combat, and these books are going to end fairly soon after this. And Sergeant Rock is on issue 402.
Wow.
And you're going to get, it's not that I don't love GI Joe, right? And I know you do, but these sort of semi-serious war books are going to be replaced basically outsold by G.I. Joe at Marvel.
Yeah. Well, and
Hasbro property. Yeah.
I think because they flip it, they stop writing for an adult. Like these books are literally written for more of an adult audience and people who are like coming out of war situations and going through their own personal stuff. So it's like people that were dealing with things could read these and have a connection to. And then G.I. Joe, literally a marketing format to sell toys. So it's definitely a different, a total shift in demographic. So, because
you know what? You also know what the crazy thing is, though.
What's that?
I know you appreciate the artwork in the early G.I. Joe books.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Joe Kubert cover on that Sergeant Rock issue.
Wow.
I mean, look at the face.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the Sergeant Rocks and the G.I. Combats. I have.
I honestly don't. So.
It's like, I appreciate.
They were never my thing. I shouldn't say I don't appreciate them. I appreciate the art of them.
Yeah. No, the art of them. It's like there's good art. The stories are good, but I mean, like the overall, you look at it and you're like, wow, they really do good deep, like the art in it is good detail art. So anyways, moving on to the rest of our amazing story we're covering.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, how often does this happen though? We've got Giffen and Kesel art and the story on one page, George Perez above on a cover, and Joe Kubert down below.
Yeah.
What are the odds you ever see this page layout with those? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
That's insanity. We get a advertisement for Battle Droids.
What? Tabletop RPG.
Yeah, it's like Mech Warrior. I mean, Battle Droids. I mean, Battle Droids. Battle
Droids. What's wild like is I had a couple of the maps and rule sets for this when I was younger, and I didn't understand any of this because like I think I got it at a garage sale or something like that, and I so wanted to play this, but nobody I knew was into this. And then I get into like high school and meet people that are into this, and then you end up getting kicked out of the library because you're too loud, and then you end up in some dude's basement and their parents are like, get out of here, you're too loud, and then they kick you out of Sherry's because you're too loud, and then you stop playing, and then all of a sudden you end up in college, and then you're like, I got my own place, and now all my friends can come over and hang out with me playing.
Are you talking about Pi?
Yeah. The movie? Yeah, that's a good movie.
No,
forget about it.
The thing you get at Sherry's.
Yes. Okay. Yes. There's always pie.
I haven't had dessert in a while, so I got a little bit distracted in your story. I haven't had dessert in like a month.
Oh my gosh, you should treat yourself to some dessert.
We have to clear that with our friend, the jiu-jitsu lawyer.
Okay, well, you talk to Paul and see what Paul says you can eat.
I think you should clear that for me. Go ahead and just make demands right now.
Yes, I'll send him a message and be like, what can Dan eat for he wants a dessert?
And by the way, if you do want to get in shape, because
not
eating pie and working out with the jiu-jitsu lawyer Paul has helped me already lose 11 pounds. And so if you want to learn to fight and grapple or get in shape, you could reach out to Paul, the jiu-jitsu lawyer at Certified Martial Arts in University Place / Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah, because the summer months are over, the winter months are on, and we're not doing anything but sitting around on couches and eating. Well, that's what some people are doing. I'm trying to not do that, but
Well, anyway, we get to the next page, and Stargrave is storming around, going, "This is humiliating. To have been recalled to life in this mechanical form on this of all planets. Perhaps I should simply and then depart," and then he screams animal horns. And it looks like Tusker has decided he's going to be a hero with his indestructible tusks.
Wow.
And he's like, I've got him, Ethel. I'll just retract these. And Stargrave just says, fascinating. This world continues to disgust me. And he's like, oh no, they won't retract. And he uses the power of the star or whatever to absolutely destroy them. So now we've got a Tusker without tusks, and it looks like Eiffel Ethel was knocked out. And he just says, he looks up and he says, I'm sorry, Mommy. And then we have a giant frozen Pulsar Stargrave.
Whoa.
And Polar Boy jumps out of the background, and he's like, at absolute zero, not even his molecules can move. And then we get a crash, Kirby crackle, Polar Boy on the ground saying, oh no. And Stargrave, once again, posturing. I am tired and insulted by this day. I did not ask to return in this foolish body on this foolish planet, or to be humiliated by being attacked by mortals. If I must destroy this planet utterly to be free, and Polar Boy's like, and then crash. And now you're going to see why Stone Boy was once offered membership into Legion of Superheroes. Because you see, we get a news report to wrap up our story. Brief, and now reporting the conclusion to this evening's lead story, Golcool Wep of the Bismol News Service. Stargrave is defeated, as Doxit reported, and for on-the-site coverage, we bring you Insti Holo of the conquering hero, Stone Boy. So we just see Stone Boy with his head all the way into the ground and his body up because he hasn't transformed back at all.
No, not at all. He's still Stone Boy.
And it says Senator Tenzel Kem summoned the substitute heroes, and Stone Boy saves us from Stargrave. And basically what we see is Tenzel found Stone Boy, and after Polar Boy froze him, Tenzel Kem pushed him off a building, and he split Pulsar Stargrave in half.
Just boop, right down the middle, like a hot knife through butter.
Because his circuits were weakened from being frozen to absolute zero. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's science, man. Science.
And the newscaster says, and normal life on Bismol has returned. Happy evening and happy eating from Golcool Wep. And now a message from our sponsor, and we get a awesome looking pet that I would love to have eating his Glork mix.
Glork.
The food your pet will love.
Yeah.
And that's the end. So we wrap this thing up pretty quickly. I don't think there's an epilogue here or anything. Oh, wait, there is. Hold up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So we get an ad for the DC Heroes role-playing game by Mayfair. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Have a bunch of those too. I have both Legion source books. I know that's going to shock you. We get another ad for Warlord toys. I feel like these keep popping up.
Yeah, they're big. You can get them at Kmart, the savings place.
Yeah, it sounds so weird that the Warlord toys came out so long into the run of Warlord too.
Well, they're like, oh, hey, people want to buy these toys. Let's make them.
Yeah, didn't
and kids
Conan
love
come
He-Man.
out? What year did the Conan movie happen?
83.
Is it that late?
It's like 83, 84.
Okay, well then this would make perfect sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, that movie comes out. They're like, oh, hey, we should do this.
I thought it came out long before that.
I want to say like it was like there was a
82.
slew of
You're right, 82. So it makes sense. So DC's Shock of Shocks copyright 1982. So yeah, because Mike Grell, though, this book was out a couple years before.
Yeah.
Because this was Mike Grell's universe that he had at DC. So, well, anyway. Okay, good call. So they copyrighted these since they had the Warlord franchise and put them out to capitalize on Conan the Barbarian. Makes total sense.
Makes sense.
Well, anyway, now we get the Protean is back, and he says, so our story ends, and we get very similar to the other book we got.
Yeah.
Right? We find out what's happened to everybody. So
right.
It's almost like this is a trope for the specials that he writes. So, or that he plots. So Fire Lad was arrested for arson. Chlorophyll Kid is jogging.
Mm-hmm.
Color Kid says, hey, I'm a guy again. So, okay. Infectious. So the infectious last infection wore off.
Yeah.
But he's still stuck in the incinerator.
Yeah.
Infection last is wondering if everything worked out. So obviously can't read a news holo. Officer Cusimano expunged from the record of an otherwise honorable officer. So now we know how she made it to Chief later, because Chief Zendak just wiped this mission from her.
Yeah, wiped.
Porcupine Pete is still crawling up to the surface.
Yeah.
Stone Boy is the winner of the Bismol Heroes Medal, and Polar Boy says maybe the substitute heroes wasn't such a good idea after all. And like I said, walking away, he will be joining the Legion of Superheroes soon after this. So he'll walk into an open tryout and they will accept him, even though he's over the age of 18, which usually disqualifies you from joining the Legion of Superheroes because you're supposed to be a teenager. But he gets to join anyway. Because basically, I think as a reward for going all this. So Karen Berger says at the end, but seriously, folks, the real Legion comic is nothing like this. It's just that every now and then I lose control of Keith and Paul, and they get loose. If you think this was strange, you should see what they've done to my office. That is, if I can get them down off the ceiling. I'm sorry, everyone. Really, I am. The end. And, it's not the end, though, because...
Oh.
We get the Substitute Heroes Clubhouse blueprint. And I will say one thing. Keith Giffen has drawn some amazing blueprints. And I would say every few years, this is sort of something you would not ever get if you didn't read the Legion books. But every few years, you'd get an artist laying out a Legion headquarters would be blown up, or you'd get a new writing team. And they would always at the back of the book give you these cool layouts of what the headquarters look like and what everything on the inside was.
Yeah.
And in this case, we get the substitute version, which is pointing out the title, the roof, the fins, the walls, the front, the sign, the vent, the ground. So, okay. And Paul Levitz writes a nice Paul Levitz also, I did do research, but I didn't have to do a lot because Paul Levitz actually writes a whole history here. This is one of the things I love that they used to do in comics before you had the internet.
They'd give you a whole download for you.
Right, because if you didn't know who these characters, if you didn't know who these characters were, Paul Levitz let you know. They were introduced in Adventure 306. Kind of gives you the background. And the other cool part about this is Paul Levitz read a lot of the early Legion stuff, which is why he wanted to write Legion to begin with. So, like a lot of DC fans, Legion and Adventure Comics was one of the gateway drugs, right? Hey, these are teenagers. And so, you've Keith Giffen, well, Jim Shooter, we've mentioned, right, wrote the Legion books. Totally blanking on, I don't know why. I'm having one of those senior moments at the time. Carrie Bates also broke in writing Legion, so maybe didn't go as far in his career as Levitz and Shooter, but still he's a big contributor to comics. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of fans that grew up loving Legion, including folks like Gail Simone and all sorts of folks. So it's just an interesting fandom. And it's really, I think part of the interesting fandom too was the fact that the stories were kind of mixed up into different books, and you had to kind of claw and find things. Colleen Doran, huge Legion fan, and got to draw Legion books. So, and now look what she does now. I mean, she kind of, it's like you got some heavy hitters here that were huge Legion fans, right? And so. Anyway, I think these were the types of pieces, without me going on and on about it, these were the types of pieces that helped that fandom. And Legion has some long-running fanzines and IPAs. IPAs? That's not right. Long-term beers.
Yeah, they have some
what is wrong with my, the fanzines? Yeah. APAs, sorry, APAs. Yeah.
APAs, IPAs. It's all
not IPAs. Very different.
Sometimes when you're going through that APAs, you're drinking an IPA.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this might have helped with a few shots, right? Like, might have helped the book.
I enjoyed it. Like we were discussing over dinner the other night, like if you have Legion books you want to shoot my way because you think you got some stuff, I would be open to checking some stuff out as reading this and just some of the other stuff that we've read. I enjoy it. I find them fun. I found this, like joking aside through your review of the book, I did enjoy the story. I enjoyed the book. I had the characters were fun. The art was freaking amazing. Like every page was like, every time something was happening,
Yeah, I think some of the even better art is when Giffen is, Karl Kesel is going to murder me if he hears this, because I sent him a message when I read Impossible Jones saying it was either the book was either cheesy or campy, and he wrote back different phrasing to me. He's like, I appreciate that, Dan, but how about this, and then here I am saying Larry Maldachet might have been a better inker for Keith Giffen, right? Yeah. After you talked about how great the art is here. But that may be true too. I think sometimes you see some even, better, maybe even a better art combo, which is amazing, because I don't want this to be a slight to Karl Kesel, right? This was really great, but I think some of the other art's even better, the combination. And I do like this too. Levitz points out in this that, hey, this is supposed to be tongue in cheek. It's a fun book. You'll see Pulsar Stargrave again, which we really actually don't. He never brings him back. Levitz writes the book for like 4 years and never brings him back, and we don't really see Pulsar Stargrave again until Legion, and then later he becomes part of the Lar Fleas series of all things on the Hoarder Green Lantern's planet, right? Or Hoarder Orange Lantern, I should say, planet. And if you would have dug that stuff too. I don't think you've read any of it, but it's when they had all the different lanterns and they gave the Orange Lantern of Avarice his own book. And Pulsar Stargrave is like his servant, basically, which is kind of funny. But I love this line. I was kind of alluding to this. This one doesn't mention Jim Starlin, and I may have mixed up books a little bit, but I thought Jim Starlin was at the end of the Pulsar Stargrave thing. But this says Pulsar Stargrave was Jim Shooter's last contribution to the Legion some 9 years ago. So funny. The editor, they're making fun of a character created by the editor of Marvel Comics. Contribution to Legion some 9 years ago, but his resolution of his story handled by Jerry Conway and myself, some of the elements of his origins got, shall we say, muddled. We're still not sure what Pulsar Stargrave's real story is, because you sure can't take anything that happened between these two covers as gospel, and rest assured he'll be back to menace the Legion again, which he never was.
He would be fun to see do things. His character would be fun to watch in other stories.
Well, and I think that he's funny also too. He says, "Don't take the thing between these two covers as gospel," because they're about to have Polar Boy join the Legion, right? As he walks away at the end, he does his Spider-Man walk away at the end of the story, like,
right,
I'm done with this, and he really actually was. He actually goes on to do other stuff, and I think the other funny part was here. The one thing that was true, we saw that Giffen took the basic body of the character and put him into Legion and actually made him the computer tyrants of Colorist, right?
Yeah.
So I did think that was funny. Like, there's actually more here that's gospel than other things. And the other thing they didn't do is you saw at the beginning, Night Girl, who I mentioned at the beginning, she wasn't in the story at all. Mm-hmm. And the reason she wasn't in the story at all is because they didn't want to tarnish her or link her to the story in any way.
Okay. Fair.
Because they're going to use the character. There's a Cosmic Boy miniseries in Legends.
Uh-huh.
And Cosmic Boy and Night Girl go back to, 1986, right? And they're part of that storyline. So they knew that was coming up, so they didn't want to link the character to the other. But she's very much there at the beginning, and then you never hear about her again.
Oh, right? Okay.
She's like in the very first panel. Yeah. I could go on about this for hours, so I probably should stop. But I hope you had fun. Listeners, I hope, you know what? I know a lot of our listeners, you love it when I am sad. When I am reading things that make me feel terrible. We've gotten a lot of great feedback about that, and I appreciate this. But maybe, just maybe you could love it when I had a whole podcast where I was just happy.
I know. This is the happiest you've been through, the last, several episodes. Not several, but several prior episodes. You were very unhappy, Dan. And this one, you were, just super bubbly, happy Dan.
Oh, this is great. And even, I said we were stopping, but we missed the last 2 pages. We have one more Best Books of 1984 ad, because really they're pushing that, because they're super excited that Swamp Thing is ranked number 1.
Yeah. And
we get a DC checklist. So what came out at this time? So we're at Crisis number 4.
Uh-huh.
Justice League of America 240, a JLA casebook special.
Uh-huh.
And that must be getting to Justice League Detroit, right? We must be there because they're going to kill off everybody in a couple years before Legends, right? Yeah. DC Comics presents Superman joins Batman and the Outsiders. That's hella fun. Atari Force 19.
Cool. Tales
of the Teen Titans, which was the reprint. I don't know if that's the reprint book or not at that point. I think that's still the original. I think we're getting into the Nightwing first appearance.
The Nightwing, yeah. Time frame.
Vigilante 19.
Yeah.
No, that's got to be the reprint book, right? Because Vigilante wouldn't have been out before that, right? I don't know. I'm gonna mess this up. Titans fans, let us know where I messed this up. Deadman number 3. They had a Deadman miniseries. Yeah.
Crazy.
That one, by the way, pretty amazing. Okay, so all right, I'll get away from this now, but yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Good time.
It was fun time.
Good time for comics, and like I said, I love this. So I love this cheesy stuff. I can go back and talk about the Silver Age forever because it's fun. See, I've got my Legion of Superheroes archive right in my hands. So Greg's like, Dan, enough. So Greg, you better take us out of here, or I'm going to be the one that keeps talking today. So
all right, everybody, thanks a lot for joining us today for Funny Book Forensics. If you want, go and find us on. I'm going to mess up the social medias because I don't do the social medias. You do.
Well,
Dan.
You can find us on Facebook, on Instagrams, and you could also find us on HoloX.
HoloX.
Just look up Funny Book Forensics or Funny Book 4N6.
There you go.
Depending on the platform you're looking. You can also find Greg at GK Wordsmith
on the Facebook or That Amazing
Twit on Twitter and Facebook. And you can find me at the very complicated name Dan Shabbat on Facebook or X. And that's it. We're done.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing to pitch. Nothing to push.
Well, you better have stuff to pitch soon, but otherwise we're done right now. And I'm going to go back in the time bubble.
And come up with something for the next fun episode of Funny Book Forensics.
Oh, gosh. We do need to go one more minute. What are we doing next episode? What are we doing?
You're going to have to find out for us, unless we do what was presented to us.
No.
Well, we do have, there is the we can review. Did you get
the episode was over. Amazing. The what?
Did you get our why can't I think of the dog book? Our dog book.
The book. I may have that. So yeah, let me check before we get into that.
Yeah. But I know that we have a few books that
our dog book.
There's 4 books that we could review.
Special.
The Gnort special. So come back to check out what we got with the Gnort special, where we do nothing but an episode of Gnort. So
More
good night.
Gnort all the time. Good night and Gnort.
Good night and Gnort.